everyone. Welcome back to Swayam MOOC on British Poetry and Drama 14th to 17th century. Today, we dive into Act 3 and 4 of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. These acts form the beating heart of the comedy, packed with disguises, mistaken identities, duels, letters, madness, and love in utter chaos. Let us quickly recall what has happened so far. Viola, shipwrecked in Illyria, disguises herself as the young man Cesario. She enters the service of Duke Orsino, who is in love with Lady Olivia. However, Olivia falls in love with Cesario, unaware that he is actually Viola. Meanwhile, Viola harbors secret love for Orsino. Adding to the complexity are Sir Toby, Sir Andrew, Maria, Feste, and Malvolio. Their schemes, mischief, and folly create multiple layers of confusion in the act. Act 3 and 4 twist all these threads into intricate knots. By the end of Act 4, the play reaches the height of confusion. But this chaos is exactly how Shakespeare constructs his comedy. Disorder first, resolution later. As we explore each scene, keep these questions in mind. Why does Shakespeare make us laugh? What truths lie beneath the comedy? What do disguise and mistaken identity reveal about love, class, and human folly? But before we dive into the acts, let us hook ourselves to the learning objectives of today's session. By the end of this module, you'll be able to understand how disguise and mistaken identity drive the plot and the comedy, explore different forms of love, passionate, loyal, foolish, and self-absorbed, recognize gender role reversals and social inversion in Illyria, identify key symbols like clothing, darkness, letters, twins, fools, and also their meanings. Reflect on how chaos and folly reveal truths about human nature and relationship. Let us dive into the scene, Act 3, Scene 1. This scene opens with a sparkling exchange between Cesario, Viola in disguise, if you remember, and Feste, Olivia's clown. Right away, Shakespeare signals that the fool, often dismissed, carries profound wisdom. This fellow is wise enough to play the fool, and to do that well craves a kind of wit. Viola here observes that true foolishness requires intelligence. Brilliant. This insight resonates with her own situation. Like Feste, she navigates the world by playing a role. The cleverness behind the mask allows both characters to speak truths that others cannot, highlighting a recurring theme in Twelfth Night. Truth often wears a disguise. Then Olivia enters, raising the emotional stakes of the play. She confesses her love for Cesario with unreserved passion. She says, "Have you not set mine honor at the stake and baited with it all the unmuzzled thoughts that tyrannous heart can think?" Olivia's boldness underscores Shakespeare's playful inversion of gender norms. Here the woman pursues and the man must evade. Viola, bound by her disguise, responds with honesty, cleverly cloaked in ambiguity. When the lines come, "I have one heart, one bosom, and one truth, and that no woman has, nor never none shall mistress be of it, save I alone." Her words reveal a layered truth. She's a woman, and no other woman can claim her heart. Yet, Olivia interprets it as Cesario's rejection. In this scene, Shakespeare intertwines disguise, gender roles, and the complexity of human desire, showing that love and honesty are often mediated by appearances and performances. Another important scene is scene 2, where we find the gulling of Sir Andrew. Here we find subplot, and this subplot illustrates the comedy of arrogance and gullibility. Sir Toby convinces Sir Andrew that Olivia's kindness to Cesario is intended to provoke jealousy, and it leads Andrew to challenge Cesario to a duel. As he says, she did show favor to the youth in your side only to exasperate you, to awake your dormouse valor. Sir Toby's mockery of Andrew, calling him a dormouse, reveals the emptiness of dueling and social pretensions. Neither Andrew nor Viola truly want to fight. Yet Andrew's desire to appear courageous is manipulated. Shakespeare uses this humor to satirize social hierarchy and the foolishness of the privileged, demonstrating how those with status may be morally or intellectually bankrupt. This scene blends slapstick with social commentary, showing that folly can be both comic and also morally revealing. As we move to Act 3, Scene 3, we basically witness the dangers growing in multiples. Antonio re-enters with Sebastian, following him into Illyria despite personal danger. His devotion contrasts sharply with the comic follies of Orsino. Olivia and Sir Andrew providing a quieter, more sincere reflection upon love. I do adore thee so, that danger shall seem sport, and I'll go. In these lines, Antonio's commitment broadens on romantic love, emphasizing the theme of devotion. Devotion as a stabilizing force amid all chaos. He enters Sebastian with his purse. He says, "Hold, sir, here's my purse." This simple act of trust becomes significant when Antonio later mistakes Viola for Sebastian, highlighting how mistaken identity can entangle genuine emotions and intentions. In this narrative, dominated by disguises and deceptions, Antonio embodies love that is direct, steadfast, and morally anchored, contrasting the comic chaos surrounding him. As we move to the next scene, scene 4 of this act, the scene intertwines humor and cruelty, both things which are normally at odds. It blends Malvolio's humiliation with the absurdity of Andrew and Cesaro's duel. Malvolio's delusion is on full display. He wears yellow stockings and cross garters, smiling foolishly, following, the instructions of Maria's forged letter. Olivia obviously is horrified. The lines, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them," they present the irony of the situation. His costume symbolizes the folly of self-love and also the blindness of ambition. Yellow stockings, normally linked in Elizabethan culture to madness, combined with fashionably absurd cross garters, they visually bring to the forefront Malvolio's delusion. Through this, Shakespeare makes us reflect on how desire and vanity can distort perception, producing both comedy and discomfort. Meanwhile, the duel escalates the themes of mistaken identities further. Sir Andrew challenges Cesario and Viola, fearing exposure. She says, "Pray God defend me. A little thing would make me tell them how much I lack of a man." Antonio intervenes, mistaking Viola for Sebastian. As the character says, "Will you deny me now? Is it possible that my deserts to you can lack persuasion? Do not tempt my misery." Here, Shakespeare entwines comedy with tension. Andrew's cowardice is humorous. Antonio's genuine distress reminds the audience that disguise and errors of judgment can have emotional consequences. Together exemplifies the interplay of laughter and moral reflection, showing how chaos, folly, and genuine feelings can coexist. As we move from here to the next act, Act 4th, Scene 1, the confusion doubles. In this short scene, we find mistaken identities to be reaching their peak. Feste mistakes Sebastian for Cesario, and Sir Andrew attacks Sebastian expecting an easy victory, only to be repelled by Sebastian's real strength. Olivia enters and declares love for Sebastian, believing he is Cesario. Unlike Viola, Sebastian can reciprocate. "If it be thus to dream, still let me sleep," he says. This scene illustrates how love in Illyria is sudden, irrational, and contingent on chance. Olivia's affection, initially directed towards Cesario, transfers to Sebastian, showing that romantic desire often defies reason and expectations. Shakespeare uses this confusion to explore how fragile identity and perception are actually in human relationships, blending both comedy and insight into human nature. In next scene, we find Malvolio in the dark room. Malvolio's imprisonment highlights the darker edge of comedy. Confined to a dark room, tormented by Feste, disguised as Sir Thopas, he insists on his sanity. "They have led me here in hideous darkness," he says. Feste alternates roles, amplifying both humor and cruelty. Here, Shakespeare explores how society labels and confines those who defy norms. Darkness represents literal and metaphorical blindness. Madness becomes a tool of control. It blends laughter with ethical reflection, reminding us that comedy can illuminate the tension between social order, power, and human dignity. In the next scene, Act 4, Scene 3rd, we see Olivia marrying Sebastian. She marries him. The confusion, culminates as Olivia, mistaking Sebastian for Cesario, proposes marriage to him. Sebastian, though he is bewildered, but he consents. He is more than happy. "If it be aught to the old tune, my lord, it is as fat and fulsome to mine ear as howling after music," he says. By the end of Act 4, Olivia believes she is married to Cesario. Viola remains in disguise. Antonio feels betrayed. Malvolio remains imprisoned. Sir Tobias' schemes have spiraled beyond control. This apex of chaos, it undermines the central theme that misperception, disguise, and human folly drive both comedy and conflict. Shakespeare beautifully blends romantic confusion with social satire, demonstrating that Illyria's topsy-turvy world magnifies human desires, errors, and the unpredictable consequences of disguise. Now that we have rounded up our discussions of the acts, let us look at the thematic concerns. What is it that these acts give us? What are the main major thematic concerns? First is mistaken identity. So, Viola and Sebastian, their resemblance basically drives the chaos. We find love in many forms to be a thematic concern. So, Olivia's passion, Orsino's indulgence, Viola's patience, Antonio's loyalty, Malvolio's delusion, Andrew's foolishness. Folly and mockery happens to be another thematic concern. So the prank on Malvolio is funny, cruel. Sir Toby's tricks expose class corruption. Comedy and cruelty, we find them, opposite to each other placed here as another thematic concern. We laugh, but we also question. When does comedy become bullying? Disguise and truth are another thematic concern here. Disguise and truth happen to be another thematic concern in these acts. Viola's disguise hides her love, but it also reveals truths about gender and identity. Again, the carnival world presented here is also a central theme. Illyria is a place where roles reverse. It is different from normal world. Women woo men, fools are wise, servants control masters. In short, Act 3 and 4 turn Illyria into a mirror. We laugh at the chaos, but we also see the fragile, playful, and sometimes cruel truths of our own lives. Further, we find deep symbolism in Act 3 and 4 of Twelfth Night. First symbol is disguise and clothing. Viola's Cesario disguise, symbol of fluid identity. It allows her to navigate a male world, but it also traps her in silence when Olivia falls in love. Another symbol are Malvolio's yellow stockings and cross garters. They symbolize the foolish self-love and also misplaced desire. Yellow was considered a color of madness in Elizabethan culture. Cross garters were unfashionable. So his costume visually embodies his delusion, symbolizing an important lesson that clothes don't make the man. Identity isn't just outward appearance. Then madness and darkness are also having their own deep symbolism. Malvolio in the dark room. It is symbol of psychological blindness and social exclusion. He is literally kept in darkness, but also symbolically he is blind to his own vanity. Having a symbolic lesson, madness here symbolizes society's power to label and confine anyone who doesn't fit. The duel is also symbolic. Cesario and Sir Andrew both are actually unwilling fighters, and they become therefore symbols of false honor. Their comic cowardice contrasts with Antonio's true bravery. Thus, the duel symbolizes the emptiness of social codes of masculinity and dueling culture. Purses and exchange of money is another important symbol here. When Antonio is giving Sebastian his purse, it actually is his symbol of deep trust and devotion. When Antonio asks Cesario to return it and Viola is baffled, the purse becomes a symbol of betrayal and also mistaken bonds. Money here symbolizes emotional investment. Antonio invests love in Sebastian only to feel it wasted. Olivia's garden and household also is a symbol. It is a symbol of world of excess and folly. Servants rule the household, not the mistress. The garden where Malvolio finds the letter, it becomes a symbol of deception and desire, a place where appearances mislead. Comedy grows in fertile soil of folly like weeds in a garden. Letters and also language is symbolically important in these acts. Maria's forged letter to Malvolio, symbol of how words can trap and transform identity. Malvolio reads what he wants to say, not what's really written. So language itself is slippery. It can deceive as much as reveal the truth. The whole situation highlights this. Again, twins actually are symbolical, Viola and Sebastian. They symbolize doubling and the instability of identity. When Sebastian enters in Act 4th, the comedy of mistaken identity peaks, giving us a symbolic lesson. Human identity is fragile. Are we defined by appearances, names, or actions? Feste, the fool, also is a symbol. He plays Sir Topaz, the curate, mocking religion to torment Malvolio. Symbolically, the fool becomes the voice of truth disguised as nonsense, giving a very important lesson that folly itself can expose the world's madness. But overall, when we look at the scenes in totality, we find a bigger symbolic pattern. In Act 3 and 4, Shakespeare uses symbols of disguise, madness, and mistaken bonds to show how fragile identity is. Comedy isn't just random stillness, it is a way of exploring. How much of us is costume? What do you think? How much is shaped by words others write about us? And also, how much depends on who mistakes us for someone else? Act 3 and 4 force us to consider deeper questions. Olivia's boldness. Olivia is unusual for a woman in Elizabethan times. She goes after love directly and fearlessly. She says, I love thee so that maugre all their pride, nor wit nor reason can my passion hide. Here she reverses traditional gender roles. Women normally wait to be wooed, but her boldness creates dramatic irony, especially compared to Viola, who must hide her love for Cesario. Shakespeare suggests that social roles are flexible. People can act beyond expectations. Disguise and freedom versus trap. Freedom we find here, in Viola when she becomes Cesario. She can enter Orsino's world, speak freely, influence events, and observe others. But it also traps her. She cannot reveal her love. With this, we come to an end of our discussion of Act 3 and 4. Let us quickly recapitulate what we have done so far. In Act 3 and 4, Shakespeare takes us to the heart of comedy. Viola, disguised as Cesario, navigates all love, confusion, and social chaos. Olivia's bold pursuit, Antonio's loyalty, Malvolio's delusion, and the comic follies of Sir Toby and Sir Andrew all intertwine, showing that love and identity are fragile and often mistaken. Disguise allows truth to be revealed but also traps characters, while mistaken identities drive both humor and tension. We saw how Illyria's topsy-turvy world, where fools speak wisdom and social norms are inverted, reflects human folly and desire. These acts remind us that comedy is not just laughter, it's insight into love, identity, and the unpredictable nature of life is significant. Act 3 and 4 of Twelfth Night are a whirlwind of chaos and laughter. So duels happen without courage, love stumbles without reason, fools speak more sense than nobles, and disguises twist reality so we can't always tell who is who. It's funny, yet beneath the laughter lies moral reflection. Who is truly mad, Malvolio or those who imprison him? Who is truly wise, Orsino, lost in sentiment, or Viola, silently navigating deception? And also, who is truly in love, Olivia, whose love is misdirected, or Antonio, risking everything for devotion? We'll talk about it in the next session. As we pause before the final act, remember this. Through laughter, disguise, and delightful chaos, Shakespeare reveals that life and the hearts within it are fragile, unpredictable, and endlessly full of mystery. And perhaps the greatest wisdom lies in recognizing that we are all in some way actors in each other's illusions.